Here we go. Hello. Welcome to our Wednesday movement. All right. So I want to do a little bit of a check-in today. We have been going, this is, I believe, our 12th week or 12th class, and that's a good check-in point, right? That's a good point, a good 3 months to check in and kind of look at what has happened. How are you feeling? What has shifted for you? And it's also a good time to just kind of roll through all the things. So let's just take a quick check-in. I'll roll through and review a lot of the work that we've done. And then I do want to have a little check-in and just see kind of where you're at, what's shifted. I know, Dan, you were saying you missed it when you didn't have it. And you were doing more sales things. You have brought it into other situations. Oops, sorry, I lost my screen. Let me get this over. Fix it. There we go. So let's start moving. We'll start kind of at the beginning and review from the very first place we started, which was your breath. So just take a moment, sitting tall. Remember those sits bones. You can wiggle around to find them. So you can feel that perching feeling. Take your hands to your ribs. Remember, we've talked a lot about maybe not crushing your back space in order to find more space in the front. We can think of the torso more like a slinky that can find space all around. So just take a little moment, maybe find some room in the ribs. We'll do that in a couple ways. You can inhale, feel your ribs widen, exhale, let them squeeze in. So after you squeeze in, then it'll be able to widen more in case it feels weird. So that's one way, just kind of finding like, hey, ribs, putting hands on low belly, seeing if you can drop your breath into your pelvis and your low belly. See if you can breathe into that kidney space in the back. We talk about that a lot. You can even put your hands there on the low ribs in the back, just below. And imagine you could widen that space. And then we played with lots of different ideas of finding more space in your ribs by finding the side space. So just take a little moment, even sitting, grounding down through your sits bones, find that slinky torso where all sides are getting lengthened. You're not just crushing one side. Even the underside has a little bit of space. And just find that breath into the side ribs. You don't have to go far, but reach long, I guess I would say. This whole side ribs. Big inhale, exhale, maybe find more space. And then try the same thing to the other side. Maybe before you go, notice that there's just going to be a different side to side and how you're sitting and feeling and breathing. And then the other side, same thing. It's less about the collapse, which is great too. That's a whole nother thing. But I'm encouraging kind of a length where we just spread those ribs open wide, not in the front, but on the side. Grounding down through your sits bones, just finding space. Big breath in. It's kind of like hanging it when you don't have any room to hang, right? We talked about hanging for that squat. So we talked about breath. We did the happy hamstrings desk stretch. Let's do that right away. You could be on your desk. You could be on a chair. You could be reading a memo, like if you're alone, you could be, I don't know, you could be reading some emails and just kind of hanging out here. We played with while we're here. There's a lot of other things you can do while you're kind of hanging onto your desk. You can do that bend and straighten, which becomes kind of squat practice. Remember this one. And then if the arms are out long and you're getting a little pull, and again, this could be sink, a wall, anything, but you're getting that pull through the ribs. You can shift your hips side to side here. So again, there's breath you're opening up space for. There's still that pelvis, the squat you're opening up space for. And place to wiggle and move and just find some freedom, right, with that open tail. So that takes care of the happy hamstring squat version as well. And then we have the calf stretch. So if you have something in your space now that you've been using, a blanket, towel, shoes, I've got my half dome here, and if anyone's interested, I sell mini versions of these on Amazon for like $7, and they're really nice. So you could have your foot, the front of your foot on your half dome. And just as a review, this could be while you're on the phone, right? I know I'm cutting my head off, but just see my foot here. That's like a scoot back just a bit. You could be talking on the phone. You could be checking things on your phone. You could be, especially if you are behind a front desk, you could be standing and no one knows what you're doing with your feet. You have a little playground for your feet nobody knows about, and you're getting all that space. This could be brushing teeth. Step off, just notice the difference in the way you stand and the grounding and the kind of solid support. And do the same thing on the other side, just our calf stretch. Front of the foot on something high, roller. So the other foot could be behind you if that's where the stretch is, and you can slowly work your way forward. If you've been doing this for a while, you might start to notice that that foot sneaks a little bit further forward, right? And it's more doable. It's sometimes a slow process, but notice if you're able, if it's just more doable, like you can hang out here a little bit better. So there's that one. Again, at desk, on the phone, anytime you could do some standing work at a desk. You could do this on the curb too, if you're out on the field and you have a curb, you know, you just kind of have your ankle up there. Calf stretch is going to change the way you walk. Then we have the shoulder snow globe. Let's take a minute to have a speak for that. You don't have to sit, you can do it anywhere. And you could do it at a sales conference or meeting, whatever day you were talking to me about. So that snow globe is the wide shoulders, right? Not in, wide and down. And how far wide can you continue to move your shoulders as you reach toward the outskirts of that snow globe, right? And just feel that there's work to be had, right? I mean, if you keep going at it and you really reach, there's work in there. You can let your palms face different directions as you go. This area is where I feel the most support and work, but explore and play. And that's just getting width for the shoulders. If you're feeling really stuck or stiff in the arms. And remember, all of that's going to be good for hand, wrist, elbow things to keep that line long. So if you've got hand, wrist, elbow, move those wrists around, find that pull and all that fascial lines in your arms. Then rest your arms and let's review and remember the twist. I like to lead with my eyes just because our eyes need a little bit of a stretch if we're used to focusing all in one direction. And then the head and shoulders. First round, I like to do no extra pull with my hands. It's almost a little warm up just to see where your spine's going. You don't have to do it that way. Just what I'm doing. Double check that those front ribs are kind of dropped down into the rest of that slinky of your torso and you can breathe into the back kidney space. And then same thing to the other side. Eyes, head, shoulders, ribs. You have a little bit of that turn. Just see how far back you can look without your ribs popping up. Everything's kind of lined up. You can imagine your spine is really long behind you. So long, tall spine doesn't mean pop your ribs open. Back to the other side, eyes, head, shoulders. Maybe you use your arms for a little extra pull. I would be gentle and listen to those ribs. Breathe long through this back of the spine and wide through the kidneys. Same thing, other side. And let your eyes stretch a little bit. As you turn, you could grab onto the chair if you like. Sits bones still grounding. Ribs dropping in the front, widening in the back. And just find the rotation wherever that edge is. Breathing length through your spine. What a great way to kind of refresh this whole nervous system line, right? If we're still all day, it gets a little stuffy, you can imagine. So we did the twist. We did the hanging, right? So hanging on the door or chair, we kind of already did that, but I'm just going to show just in case this idea. I have, we have two different versions of hanging. One was, you could even do this on a door frame. We have just kind of letting a pull happen, right? We did a little sideways hang. This is a little harder to find. You got to find something specific. Something like a wall, a door frame, railings are good, but that kind of pull away or lean away, just to, same as the snow globe, find space. Then there's the pull you could use kind of like we did with the desk, but just pulling away more for your shoulders and your hands. And remember, we also did the squat version of the pull. which gets you down lower to the floor. In a squat, if that's okay for your knees, for some people, when a squat normally wouldn't be okay, we can hang like this and start to find that shape without so much pressure on the knees. This is going to strengthen your hands because that is a weak link in the human condition these days. It did not used to be. And it's to the detriment of our shoulders. So notice that there's that kind of hang. If that's too low, just finding the sensation of hanging. My feet are on the ground. I'm not going to lift my body up. It's like mimicking that pull that you would get if you were hanging from the monkey bars. So that's something that can be tricky to find a place for, but I do encourage you to find it. We've done all the squat challenge things. We've done a lot with that. Let's just review some of them. We just did one of the hanging squat. We've already done the happy hamstring squat. The other prep for squatting was the one where you could use a chair or a really high step and put one foot on it if that feels okay. And just that kind of leaning, folding in. You can even bend both knees, folding in. You could put some weight in the front foot or not. It's all what feels okay, what doesn't bother your knees. Could you have a little bend to find that fold of your squat? If you're working on that, some different angles could work here. Just bending both. Yeah. And same thing on the other side. If it's a rolly chair, you got to watch out. Might not work so well. But really looking for that crease. Like there's my squat. That's what's going to help me get deeper, getting up and down from the floor, which is coming, right? You could turn your body to face different angles and kind of find that deep squat in the hip, maybe with a little pressure or weight over that front leg or not, depends on how it feels. Good. And then we had, I think that was all the, I'm checking all the other squats that we did. Oh, let's just do the hip flexor chair stretch. And then we'll get up and down from the floor. So the hip flexor chair stretch that we did a few weeks ago, bring it in the right spot. That's not gonna be it. Is sitting in your chair, turning sideways a little bit. So here's the chair. Your legs behind you. It's like a lunge, right? Like a fitness lunge for starters. You can hold onto the chair and slide that leg back if you have space. And it's just, maybe this is it. Maybe you hold onto the chair and straighten your leg only as far as it goes. And this is something too, like if you have space in the office and you're in a chair and you just have a moment, this will stretch out. I'm sorry, apologies. This will stretch out the front of that hip and thigh. If you want to add bonus points, you could take that arm up and back or sideways. You're looking for what feels delicious. Does that make sense? Feels good. Look for it. And then you can switch sides. Same thing. Just to review. You're kind of sitting on the chair wherever it's comfortable. You can hold on to the back and the bottom of the chair. You could slide that leg back. Chair yoga. That's what's going on here. And then if that's perfectly comfortable and you don't need your hands here and you can straighten your leg all the way, by all means, straight up might feel nice, a big open space in the front. And then you could try a sideways bend too, or sideways and back. You see how there's all sorts of ways to explore. Then you're getting that side rib space too, bonus points, yeah? Beautiful. And then you take all that knowledge and you get all the way down onto the floor. Some of you might have something at home or I don't know, at your office or home office that you could sit on the floor sometimes. So just practice getting as low toward whatever bolster you created. You could sit there. There's lots of ways you could sit on the floor. And then the idea of being able to get up from there. Not everybody's going to be able to go from the squat up with no hands, but that's kind of where you're heading, right? That will be a big marker, a big milestone if and when that happens. Or maybe it happens in a different way where you can do some of it without hands, not all, right? Just try a couple times up and down and explore what you're getting better at, what you can do maybe without hands, what's getting more smooth with hands, right? Getting up or getting down. One more time. And then when you're back, and we're gonna have a little check-in with how things are going. So as we went through, I know it's a small group today, but as we went through all the things we've done so far as a review, I'm curious if and what things feel easier or different in terms of the exercises. And then if anyone has insight into how or if that's showing up for you and how you feel at the office or what you're doing at home. Any insight? Anyone up for sharing?
Sorry,
So
I'm late.
I have bursitis in my right shoulder, and just this reminder, because I'm not as good with, keeping abreast of that. So especially that snow globe and the hanging ones, I find I'm noticing a difference with that. So that's very helpful.
Great. So it just feels a little bit better. You have more.
Yeah. More range of movement and a lot less, if I keep up on it, it doesn't even like hesitate or that kind of thing. But if I'm not being diligent about stretching that out, then it really does kind of hurt at the end of the day, or that kind of thing. So by especially using that snow globe at times, it just feels lighter.
Great. That's huge. That's so wonderful. Thank you. What else have you noticed? Anyone?
So I've noticed that my hips are more limber than before. And when we first started, I wasn't really able to get up and down readily. And I was just able to do it. I still have to use my hands a little bit, but it's not so hard to do as it was before. And then as I shared when we started Zoe, is these things can be transported anywhere. And so I've just done it whether I'm sitting in my car or at a conference or even at home when I'm standing and continuing to do things at my chair. But like Kristen, I like that, the snow globe. I think that's been the greatest one.
Awesome. So great. And such a big deal that your hips feel more open and the ability to get up and down from the floor. I don't know if you all saw that. It was in like the public realm. It wasn't just in the health and fitness world, but the whole idea of research that showed, people that can get up and down from the floor without hands, which is where you're headed, even if you can't do it yet.
Yeah.
It's like life expectancy goes up. Like that's like you show your age, right? You can kind of have the age, I know the way your body is acting and feeling can be in that kind of higher age. And we're like, no, bring it down below the age that you're at, below that expectation, so that you're moving better than you've moved in decades. That's what we're looking for. That's where we're heading. And that's what you're already describing. So that's amazing. And it's not it's, yes, we've given up that ability a little bit, but then what we're discovering is, oh, it's not gone. I'm getting it back. And we're going to keep going. That's not the end. So if it's already easier to get up and down from the floor, that's a huge deal. Not just like, oh, that's cool, but for your body, for life, for all of it, it's a big deal. So that's amazing. And let's keep going in that direction. Good for you. Did you want to say something more?
I am still really struggling to implement this into my daily life. So I just need to, whether I put a daily reminder in my calendar or post-it notes or something, because when I sit here and do it, it feels so good. And then it doesn't cross my mind again. And so occasionally it does, right? And then I'll sit there and stretch and do things, but it's just not consistent enough. So that's where I'm needing to regroup. How am I going to make this a part of something I'm doing every day?
Do you have a favorite or a favorite or two that feels important to you? Would you be able to name? Because sometimes it feels like we've done so much, I couldn't possibly do it all.
Just pick some. Yeah. Well, this week I have some sort of a kink in my shoulders and whatever. So I think the stretching, hanging, things like that is going to feel really good. And snow globe. So I have morning stretches that I do for my chiropractor that I'm have become more a part of my routine. I don't get them in every day, but a lot of days. And so I just need to, once I figure out what's my routine with this, I feel like I'll be better at it.
And I'm one of those people too that I need the visual cue if it's not
Mhm.
in me. And I know that's like an ADHD thing, but I was like, maybe that's part of what I need too. It's just I need to see it. So my cue is always visual. If it's a post-it note or if it's something that's there, like there's something there behind your desk that's for your calf stretch and it just exists there. So when you see it, notice it, you could get up and do it.
That's the thing. Yeah.
I would need a note to do most of that happy hamstring stuff, which is another like big, easy one that if you're going to pick only 3, I'd say calf stretch, that happy hamstring, or some version of that reach and pull. So there's lots of great things going on, right? And it seems like the snow globe and hanging anyway is a good one for you. And everybody loves that one. So since there's no cue for the snow globe, it might be a cue in your day, right? You could pick something that you do every day at your desk. I don't know if you have that much structure or if it's a little bit more like chasing things all over the place, and that might be it. But if there's that kind of structured thing, great. If it's like when you take a break and you stand up for whatever, or it's just a post-it note of the snow globe and happy hamstring, and you get to that when you get to it. But I'm the same way. If it's not in front of me, it's gone. Which is like why I have 500 tabs open on my computer. It's not helpful.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because I like, but I'm working on all of those things.
Yeah,
I
me
can't
too.
possibly. How am I going to know what to do next? So I get it. And a lot of us are that way. It's perfectly normal. And if it's, something that doesn't have the visual, like the thing on the floor, then yeah, maybe try it and see what happens. And report back next week. All right. So that's our review. We've done it for 3 months, making some nice progress. And we'll continue on next week and we'll keep pulling in some other people, keep being weird in the office and all the things that we're doing. We'll get other people in. All right.
Thanks, Zoe.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.